What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co-host, Will Cohen. Today, we're going to be discussing some potential new lines for the Rangers. Yes, they are on a 4-game win streak, but have all of those wins been the prettiest? Not so much. Last night, the Rangers beat the Chicago Blackhawks 4-3 in overtime. They had a 2-goal lead entering the third. Things kind of fell apart. Mika Zibanejad scored his first even-strength goal in overtime since, what was it? December 23rd or something
December
crazy like that.
23rd.
A long time that Mika Zibanejad has scored an even strength goal. He kind of seems to be the root of the problems on offense, in my opinion, at least. So we're going to be kind of diving into these lines, seeing what we would change, what could potentially benefit the Rangers' offensive core moving forward. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below on all of the new lines that we project. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram, X, and TikTok for daily Rangers content. But before we really get into things, Will, how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. Watching my dog. He's barking right now. I'm trying to get him to stop, but other than that, I'm good.
Hey, man, it's all cool. You got your dog barking. I hear the lawnmower outside. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of background noise throughout this episode, but it's not going to stop us from discussing the Rangers. So the first thing I want to just go through is the offensive lines, right? You have that first line of Kreider, Zibanejad, and Wheeler at this point, I guess. Haven't really been working out. We know that Wheeler isn't the best fit up there on the first line, but it also doesn't help that Kreider and Zibanejad haven't been producing that much. I know Kreider has been the better of the two, but both of them scored last night against Chicago. Mika has been recording points, but not goals. Really, is his problem at this point. That second line is perfect. Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. Panarin scores points basically every game. Trocheck was an all-star for a reason. Lafreniere, I think, has 3 goals in his last 4 games. So shout out to him. Even last night, the third line contributed. I think it was the full line had a point on that 1 goal by Brodzinski. Cooley had an assist and Kakko had an assist. And then the fourth line is they're just out there doing something. But Will, just give me your breakdown on the 4 lines. Which lines do you like? Which lines do you want to change? Then after that, we can really get into the nitty-gritty of what we would do if we were the head coach.
So I really like the third line. I like Cooley, Brodzinski, and Kakko. They played really well yesterday, and they've been playing well the last couple games. Brodzinski has 4 points in his last 4 games, and he's, before that he wasn't playing his best, but I mean he's kind of showing that maybe the Rangers don't need to trade for a 3C. Maybe he's just a fourth line guy. Obviously, I like the second line. They've been playing how they've been playing all year, but yesterday they went up 3-1, and Laviolette said, you know what, let's kind of mix around the lines, see what's going to help Mika and Kreider get going, and so it was Panarin, Zibanejad, Lafreniere, and Kreider, Trocheck, and Wheeler, but they blew a 3-1 lead. It was 3-3. They went into overtime. So I mean, I don't know, I get why Laviolette was doing it, and I'm actually really happy he was. Sorry, Bingo is fucking going nuts down there for some reason. I don't know why, but you know, you're up 3-1, so it's a good coaching move to kind of see what your lines you can help to get your guys going. But because they had to do that, they blew a 3-1 lead, and yeah, but I'm I I'd like to keep Panarin and Zibanejad and Laugh together because two play drivers with Zibanejad and Panarin's been so good this year that defenses are gonna go towards him. That leaves Zibanejad open and probably will help him out a lot. So I'd like to see them get a couple more games together before they change that back up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the major problem here because you look at the players that need to get that boost, just that need to get something going. And Mika Zibanejad is obviously the number one guy. Like I said before, he's scoring a lot of points, but he's not really scoring goals. Obviously, that's hurting the 5v5. The power play has come to a screeching halt, 0 for 3 last night against Chicago. But you can't really break up that first line without touching the second line. And we don't really want to touch the second line because of how good they've been. Really, the only movable piece there is that first line right wing. Kakko has been there. Wheeler has been there. there's been Cooley was there for a game. They're trying everything, and obviously, as we know, we've been covering it on this channel for the last few weeks. A trade ahead of the deadline is the best way to fill that hole. But before that happens, if it happens at this point, because of the price of everyone is going for minimum a first round pick, and Dolan doesn't want the Rangers to trade their first round pick this year, but that's another discussion for another time. There's really not much the Rangers can do as far as breaking up this line, but I do think that if Kreider and Zibanejad are going to stay together on that first line, the player that is currently on the roster that they play the best with is Kaapo Kakko. Now, is Kakko himself scoring a lot of points? Not really, but his style of play, his defensive aspect, and his grit, his speed, it kind of adds on to what Kreider and Zibanejad are already producing, and it allows them to have a little bit more freedom on the ice. So I do want to bring up something here. This is a concept from David Shapiro of Blue Seat Blogs on Twitter or X. He says that the Rangers should scratch Blake Wheeler, move Kakko to the first line right wing, and then have Brett Berard, one of the Rangers prospects, who leads Hartford in 5v5 points by a wide margin, to the third right wing. So you're essentially, in that point, getting rid of Blake Wheeler, who every once in a while will produce, but consistently, no, not so much. Move Kakko up to the first line, which, as I just said, and David Shapiro also agrees with, gives Kreider and Zibanejad the best possible scoring opportunities given the current roster. And then moving a prospect up, Brett Berard, who definitely, based on his stats with Hartford and the AHL, can improve that third line of Will Cooley and Johnny Brodzinski. So me personally, based on that, knowing that Berard doesn't have, I don't think he has any NHL experience. Am I right on that? Yeah, he doesn't have any NHL experience. So it seems a little bit risky, given the Rangers' current standings. Despite the recent struggles, they are still third overall in the NHL at the time of this recording. So they are still very much a Stanley Cup contender. I don't know how comfortable I would be adding in someone with zero NHL experience to a team that is most likely going to make a playoffs and hopefully make a deep run. Obviously, we'll see what happens with the trade deadline, just under a month away now. We've always said just over a month away. We are officially just now under a month away from the trade deadline. So I think for now, I see the upside in it, but as soon as the Rangers make a trade, I would probably avoid that and insert that new guy and then move Kakko back down. But that's just my opinion on it. Will, I'll let you share your thoughts on the matter.
Dude, you know what? I've been thinking about it, and the Sabres are shopping this guy named Casey Middlestat. The Rangers want to go all in with him. I feel like that's a first-line right winger right there for you. I mean, Middlestat's
Are the Rangers actually shopping Middlestat?
The Sabres are shopping Middlestat right
now.
now.
Oh, the Sabres. I thought you said the Rangers.
Oh, no, not the Rangers. No, the Sabres. The Sabres. I mean, it's 42 points. Put him on the right. Put him on the right wing for Mika and Chris. Let's see how you do it right there. But I mean, he probably would be too expensive, seeing how we go, how it is through the first couple weeks of the trade deadline. The first two players going for first, and every other team saying, you know what? Even Nick Dowd, the Capitals want a first out of Nick Dowd. Like, he's a third line guy right there, and they want a first out of him. It's nuts. But I think if the Rangers don't decide to spend their first round pick and they keep this the same, and well, maybe they get like a fourth line guy, you could scratch Blake Wheeler, but I'd like to. You could put Kakko back up to the first line, but I do really like that Cooley Brodzinski Kakko line. They've been working really well so far, but with, like you said, with how the deadline's going, they're probably gonna have to put Kakko back up and then find a third line guy to fill that spot if you're gonna scratch Wheeler, but I doubt that happens too.
And honestly, that's if Kakko makes it out of the deadline still wearing a Rangers jersey. I'm a little upset about this deadline. I can't even lie. I think of all the NHL trade deadlines that I've watched as a Rangers fan, which has been maybe like 12 years. I think the first season I watched was like 2011, so 13 years. I started. It doesn't matter. Whatever I started watching, but this is definitely like the least excited I've ever been for a trade deadline. It's like I know that we're buyers and we're trying to bolster our lineup for a Stanley Cup run, but everyone is going for first rounders. You know, if the Rangers actually want to get someone good, they're going to have to give up a guy like Capo Caco. The owner of the team, Dolan, doesn't. I mean, this is all speculation. I've heard reports that he does, reports that he doesn't, but reportedly, Dolan doesn't want the Rangers to trade their 2024 first overall draft pick so they can be present at the Sphere in Las Vegas for the draft, the Sphere that he owns. So it's kind of like he's telling Drury he's not allowed to make like any move regarding that pick because he wants the team that he owns to be represented at the Sphere that he owns. It's kind of just seems like a whole personal gain thing. Like if I'm Chris Drury, I'm just like, whatever. I'm gonna if the right trade comes my way, I'm doing it. I might get fired, but I might win the Rangers a Stanley Cup. But then I've also heard reports that that's just rumors and that's not true. So who knows? I know that it is confirmed that we did make an offer for Elias Lindholm, and that 2024 first was not included in that offer, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe those rumors are true regarding that first pick. But that's a whole other story. I don't even want to get into it. Just all I know is if I look at this Rangers lineup right now, and I don't see them making it far as a playoff team with the way that the lines are structured right now. You have goaltending that's been mediocre at best. I mean, look at last night. Yeah, the Rangers won, but Igor Shesterkin did not play well. Every goal was not his fault, but he did not play well either. You know, there's no reason for that game to go to overtime. Zibanejad has not played well either. He's not scoring goals. Kreider scored last night too. But again, overall, I want more out of him. It's kind of hard to win a Stanley Cup when you only have one line producing. So I think the final thing to touch upon is just what needs to change and when. And to me, the answer is ASAP. We need to change these lines as soon as possible. And there's really only one thing that needs to change, and it's just finding a way to get Zibanejad to score goals. And I don't know if I want to. I see now this is where it gets so tough because I think the biggest way to help Zibanejad, or at least help the Rangers overall, is put Zibanejad on the second power play because he's not helping the first. But then the question is, who do you bring up? My take, Alexis Lafreniere. That might help the first power play unit, but that doesn't help 5v5. It's kind of like the Rangers are just waiting for this trade to happen to kind of save their team. Like their 2 wins before Chicago against Tampa and Colorado, both very, very impressive wins. But against Colorado, how many goals did they score? 2. One was in overtime. Tampa Bay, what was it 3-1 in that?
Yeah, 3-1.
Yeah, 3-1 win. I mean, like, I'm happy they won 3-1, but had Igor been in net, I feel like they might have lost that game. I don't. So I think something needs to be changed, but we're talking about like surgical work here, where Laviolette has been very good about not changing the lines this season. You know, you look back at game 1 to now, aside from injuries, he's barely touched these lines. Unlike Gerard Gallant, who every single game would be like drastic changes, moving pieces across the board. But Laviolette, he's stuck with his team, he's stuck with his lineup, and for the most part, it's been working. But now we're getting down into the nitty gritty of it. Trade deadline's coming up. You got to find a way to get the guys who are in their slumps going, and the guys who have been playing well, the second line, keep them going. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn because there's a lot of work to be done, but at the same time, I don't want Laviolette to touch much. It's an interesting situation that we're in, but I'll let you give your thoughts and then we can wrap it up.
I liked yesterday when, I like how Laviolette isn't changing the lines, but I like how yesterday, and I know it might not have directly led to the loss. I mean, to them giving up 2 goals, but um, I like how he was tinkering his lines to see to see if Mika Zibanejad could get going, but he didn't, and then it kind of lost, and then you blew a 3-1 lead. So, but I don't know.
Well,
This
it
team
kind
needs
of
a lot of help.
it kind of makes you wonder when, like, about a week or two ago, when Zibanejad was struggling, and then we kind of you weren't a part of it. It was me and Colin, I think. And we made that episode. Could the Rangers maybe try to market Zibanejad at the trade deadline? And the comments were overwhelmingly negative. And they were like, no, 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 no. We were also on the same viewpoint as that. We were like, no, we shouldn't. But honestly, at this point, I'm kind of like, maybe.
No, he's probably not gonna move his no. He's not gonna waive his no movement clause. I don't see a point of trading him because then your center depth one is all screwed up, and you're not gonna be able to find another first line right wing left. I mean center. Yes, you have
Well,
Trocheck, but after that you're gonna have Brodzinski as your second line center. Like
before we even continue, I gotta clarify. If the Rangers were to have traded for Elias Lindholm, then yes, I would have maybe considered it. Because then you could have moved that second line of Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere up to number one, have Kreider, Lindholm, Kako number two, and then the bottom six stays the same. But Lindholm's already gone off the table. There's not really any more centers left, so we kind of just got to hope and pray that Laviolette finds a way to get Zibanejad going.
yeah, there's a lot this team. They need defense. They need defense. They need they need they need wingers. They need a center, a bottom six center. They just need. There's so much this team needs.
The only
It's
thing
going to
we
be
don't need
so
is a
hard,
left
but
winger
yeah, we
and a
really don't
goaltender.
need any left wingers at this point anymore.
And a
But I
goaltender.
mean,
That's the only two.
I think they'll be fine. I mean, I get it. Like they won yesterday, but haven't been playing. They didn't play well in the second and third, but I mean, I kind of see it as like a positive that they're on a 4-game win streak. Like, yeah, maybe it wasn't the prettiest, but it shows that they're still fighting and there's something left in there, and hopefully they're going to figure it out. And it seems like they've, I guess, kind of figured it out. Their power play hasn't been doing well, but balance those out. I think you'll be fine, but there's a lot, but it shows that they have some fight still left in them, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have fight, but I can't help but I keep rewatching that Zibanejad overtime goal from last night on Twitter, and just look at the celebration. Like no one is excited. They know that they should have won that game in regulation.
That makes sense. They should have never gone into overtime. They should have won 3-1 in regulation. They probably should have won 4-1 because they pulled their goaltender. But you know, I also think that there's kind of there's a little bit of a what's the word I'm trying to think, like a good and a bad to that. Obviously, the bad is you should have won in regulation, but the good is at least Zibanejad scored, and maybe that will help him. So there's it's a blessing and a curse. That's what it is. It's a blessing and a curse. You should have had 2 points out of regulation. The Hawks shouldn't have gotten a single point, but at least Zibanejad did score. So maybe that'll help him get his confidence back, help him get
Maybe.
going. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see what happens moving forward. This was just our opinion on what should go on with the Rangers lines. We're more than excited to see how you guys feel about the lines, what you would change, what you would keep the same, and so on. But be sure to let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you are new, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. And lastly, please follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram, X, and TikTok. And be sure to tune in for more daily Rangers content. Have a good one. And
Let's go Rangers.